Hey everyone, welcome to the Electric Supercar channel. This week we're going to implement some cooling on this Nissan 300ZX. Let's get to it. That brings us to today's sponsor, Lytmi. This is the Cozy Fit, and these are an open ear headphones. It's a super nice case. Look at that. So this is a different type of headphone. Most of the ones you see you plug in your ear or you've got the big headphones. This one is, I'll call it an open ear. So you can still hear all the ambient noise, which is good, you know, in a situation where you need to be hearing things. For me, I like to use headphones when I'm working just so that way I can still be recording. You guys can't hear, but I can. So this is more similar to just if you had overhead music playing, but it's just for you, not for anybody else. So you can still hear surrounding sounds, but you can also hear your music. So these are the world's lightest open ear headphones at only 6.7 grams. It has a memory seal wire design, so it'll fit a variety of ear shapes and sizes. It actually has a very clear and pleasant sound quality. It has an IPX5 rating, so it is water and dust resistant. It's very compact, but it has an 8-hour battery life, so basically all day performance, and extended with the case, you can get up to 30 hours. The ultimate test for these type of headphones is, depending on what kind of music you want to make sure that they stay in place. So they stay in place and they're incredibly light. Other thing that's cool is I always would used to put just one in so I could still hear out of the other one. This one I can do both ears, so very cool. So if you need a new set of ear headphones or just want to be able to hear also while you're listening to music, I'll leave a link in the video description below. All right, I'm gonna quickly go through what I do when I'm setting up a system. Now, again, this is without like refrigerant cooling or without heating. So this is just kind of relying on the radiator fan to cool the systems, which for this setup should be just fine. So basically you just have to figure out what things need to be cooled. So in this case, we've got the motor, we've got our combined charging unit, and we have our battery pack. Beyond that, we usually have a couple other things that cooling systems typically have, like an overflow tank, radiator, and our pumps. So most of your systems will actually have requirements on cooling. So for the Tesla, it needed 6 liters a minute for flow to cool. So it's got its own dedicated pump. So we got one pump just for the Tesla. The other pump goes to the combined charging unit as well as the battery pack. In my experience, these don't heat up quite as much as the motor. All we need to do is figure out what the connector sizes are. For example, the motor has got about 3/4 inch tubing. The CCU has a 5/8. Battery pack we haven't made yet, so we can choose whatever size. Each of these components have an inlet and an outlet. So inlet, outlet, inlet, outlet, inlet, outlet, even our overflow, inlet, outlet, even our radiator, inlet, outlet. The only other thing I do is I use manifolds. So for example, all the return lines I've got going into one manifold. That manifold is then going into the radiator. So we just have one tube going to the radiator. So we have another manifold here. This splits the return from the radiator into both pumps. So again, one pump just goes for the motor. The other pump goes to the combined charging unit as well as the overflow and the battery pack. We have a third manifold that splits it from that pump to go to the combined charging unit, the battery pack, and the overflow. So just a quick little diagram like this can help identify the tubing sizes you need as well as the connector for the tubing, even manifolds, things like that. So also real quick, I'm just gonna go through each of the channels so you can see how things are cooled. So the motor heats up, it needs to be cooled. We'll just start here after the radiator. So there's a collector here or a manifold, and basically there's a 3/4 inch tubing that comes here and gets pumped to the motor, goes through the motor. Essentially blue means it's cool, red means it's now needs to be cooled, it's warm now. Goes back over here, and then again, this is a manifold, comes back to the radiator. So that's pretty simple. And all these circuits are very simple. So same thing here, we'll take like the combined charging unit, we'll start here from the radiator, it goes to this distribution block, again another pump. This tubing goes to the CCU, it's then warm, goes back to the collector or manifold, and then goes to the radiator. Same thing for the battery box, from the radiator through this manifold to the pump, through this manifold to the battery box, back to this manifold to the radiator. And then we've got this last one, which is just the overflow. So we've got coolant going in to the top, and then any excess is going to be taken up into the radiator. So again, all very simple circuits. I find it's best if you draw it out. Again, it helps you identify what size tubing you need, what connectors you need, what manifolds you need. So now we've got everything ordered. We just wait, it'll come in and we can start assembling. I'm going to bring up 2 other things. I get frequently asked about heating and cooling. So not just radiator cooling, but like having a chiller and then also heating. This is more a consideration for the batteries over the motor. So radiator for the motor is more than sufficient. I'll get to that in a second. But batteries like to be in an operating temperature, say between 0 and 60 degrees Celsius. So for this particular customer, they're in Florida, and again, anything near freezing, not a problem. So we definitely don't need anything to heat the batteries. I would say active cooling, like chilling, is probably only required when you're DC fast charging. That's when you're kind of continuously supplying the car with 200 or 300 amps for an extended period of time, that's where you could really accumulate some heat, and that's where you might need it. Where the radiator is not really going to see any air to kind of cool things any better. That'd be about the only time. A lot of people also ask me, how do you know what size radiator to use? This is just real quick, simple math. Take an internal combustion car. We're going to say the gas has a capacity of 1,000 horsepower. Okay, the losses of an internal combustion engine, converting that 1,000 horsepower to mechanical power to drive the car, it's around 30 to 40%. So for easy math, we're going to say 30%. So that means the radiator and exhaust system, everything else has got to take up around 700 horsepower of energy. So the radiator, it's got to have a really beefy radiator, a really robust cooling system to kind of make sure that the engine doesn't continually heat up. In that same situation, if you've got, instead of gasoline, if you've got your energy source as a battery of 1,000 horsepower battery, electric motors, they're about 90–95% efficient. So that means for that 1,000 horsepower battery, you're actually going to put 900 horsepower into the mechanical action of driving the wheels, and you only have to cool about 100 horsepower of thermal energy. If you think about it that way, for any combustion car, any radiator that fits that is probably going to be way overkill for your electric vehicle build. All right, slowly but surely we are getting the cooling system all together. Got lots of tubing. These are the Tesla pumps, got some manifolds, fittings. I tell you though, the fittings cost an arm and a leg. Can't believe how much they cost. But I think we finally figured everything out, got everything ordered, and so now we're starting to put it together. All right, here at the front of the vehicle, basically there was a lot of, I'll call it air intake things here. And so there's a nice big open area that will likely put pumps and manifolds up here, just right in front of the radiator. We're gonna likely put the manifolds, one on either side, just kind of try and tuck it up and out of the way. And these are some of the first hoses that we're trying to connect. So we kind of have three main circuits. One is for the CCU, one is for the motor, and then one will be for the battery box. So we'll have that kind of one on each side. And then we're starting, I don't know if you can tell. Yeah, you can see up there. So that's one of the silicone elbows. So this one goes over there, and essentially right there is where it will enter the radiator. We don't have this one yet, but exiting the radiator, it'll go back around and then to that front part where we've got the pumps. All right, I have a couple of these Tesla pumps. They come with 4 wires. Typically, this is going to be a power and a ground, and then the other 2 are going to be like PWM wires. I'm going to see if it runs just with power and ground. Sometimes it has kind of a default state, like just on. I'm going to try that. Otherwise, I can get a PWM controller. As I recall, this is like a serious pump. Like, I feel it kind of jerking a little bit. It's making noise. It's not really pumping anything though. There it goes. So I figure I'll just keep it on just for a little bit, make sure it won't kick off. Yeah, that is some serious flow. We've got most of the plumbing in place. We still need some brackets. Got a couple of pumps here. One will be kind of dedicated for the motor. The other one will be for the batteries and DC to DC converter. This is just a manifold. This is coming from the radiator. So one's right there, one's over there. So we got to get some mounting fixtures, but we're looking pretty good. All right, we've got a new radiator for our cooling system. Yeah. There it is, it looks really good. So we can swap this one out with the old one. This one actually fits very well with the car, it already mounts the car. So the old stock radiator is about 30 years old, and it has definitely seen some better days. So this new radiator is gonna give us new life for cooling. I don't know, does any air even get through that anymore? All the hoses and fasteners are off, we're just gonna do a direct swap. And just like that, we've got a brand new radiator. And look at that, you can kind of even see through it. I think air's gonna do a lot better and cooling's gonna do a lot better with this one. I'm using some of the same tubing. I just gotta make one more connection from this one to this big tube right there. So I've just got an elbow, gotta do that last thing, and then I think the whole circuit will be ready, except for we clearly don't have our battery box, we don't have our motor in place, but all the other tubing will be kind of in place and be ready to go. All right, we've got a new fan. The other fan was actually connected to the engine. So got a fan, got some, those are like attachment cables, and then we've got, this is a relay. It's also got a thermostat control. So we'll go ahead and get this installed. All right, so I've got it connected. I'm just going to turn it on real quick, see which way, if it's pulling or pushing, and that way we can just switch the polarity if we need to. Okay, it's going the right direction. Yep, that's going the right direction. We have the fan in place. We've got it wired, at least up to some wires over here. We've got the final connection on the tubing, so the hoses, that's from the bottom of the radiator up through here, and that goes around front, right to there. That's kind of the main accumulator, and then it gets pumped out to the various spots. All right, got another package from Send Cut Send. This is for cooling, and then these are power steering. We've got that distribution block as well as this one. Those are both in place now. Probably got to hook up the tubes again. But again, there's nothing to the other ends of the tubes for the most part. We still have to put in the motor and the battery box. So those are kind of two main components we don't have in there yet. We do have another part up front though. So again, this is all just kind of hanging out in space. We've got this one that should align everything and mount it to the car. So we'll go ahead and put that one in. Boom. We are all secured. So we got the plate fastened there and there, and then there's two other fasteners up here. Got the pumps in place, plugged in. All the tubing is connected with tubing clamps, and it's already routed, so we are good to go. So again, quick recap. One of these pumps is kind of dedicated just for the motor, because the motor requires lots of cooling. The other one will go to the battery pack as well as the CCS, combined charging unit, so both DC to DC converter as well as charging. This one is kind of the main return, and that one's kind of just a drain and fill port, as well as just kind of debubbling. I found that's very useful. So again, we don't have the motor in place, we don't have the batteries in place. We do have the CCS. We've got tubes going there. All right, on this side, this is where the one pump comes, the other is going back to the motor. So from here, this goes to the overflow tank, which is right there. And then we've got one that'll go to the battery pack, the other one goes to the CCS. And then on the return side, one of the hoses goes in right there. The other one is from CCS, battery pack, and then the motor. So this all comes in here, over the top, through the radiator, and basically it comes out of the radiator, up here, back through, right through there, and into this block. So that is our cooling circuit. All right, we've got most of the things done that we needed to get done, so we can start putting the interior back, we can start putting kind of the front bumper and everything back, so we're gonna start doing that. Today, we're gonna be putting in some LED lighting. So if you recall from a couple episodes ago, the turn signals, they had the essentially the fast flashing ones. So we're going to use these to replace them, and that should eliminate that. There we go. Alrighty. There we go. So this is the one we're going to replace. There we go. So just that easy. Okay. Let's do the other one, and then we'll check the result. There's that one, and good one's going in. Boom. So now I'm gonna get the rest of the bumper kind of on and the lights in place, and we'll go ahead and turn things on. This is from LasFit. They really focus on replacement LED bulbs, and it eliminates all the hyper flashing. They're typically smaller than the regular market ones. So really, if you're ever looking for a replacement, go visit LasFit. I'll leave a link in the video description below. So we've not hooked this battery back up since we took apart a lot of connections on the inside. So I'm not sure if this will work, but we're gonna try it for the sake of blinkers. Where's the key? Where's the key? Key. This is trouble. Might need to do hazards. Huh, we did it. Look at that, no more hyper flash. All right, so those are nice and bright. All right, for comparison's sake, I'm gonna put the old one back in just so you guys can see the difference. So I don't know how well it'll pick it up on camera, but this one is definitely a lot brighter. This is the lasfit. This might be a better way to judge, but you can see on this side, that's the lasfit one. It's a much brighter light than this one. You can just see how much brighter it is. And again, if you need to pick some up, I'll leave a link in the video description below. All right, on this under tray, did just a little bit of plastic welding there and there that had some tears in it. Again, it didn't go all the way through, which is nice. Just welded it all up with some metal mesh, both sides here. So should be good. We'll put it back in. All right, this is the front grille. It was actually split in two pieces. So I did a whole bunch of these staples, the heat stakes. I always want to try one other thing. I've seen some things, I don't know if this is the right plastic, but you can kind of just torch it real quick and it looks like new. So we're gonna try that. All right, so that's kind of what it looks like. I was hoping it'd kind of bring out the shine, but I guess we can do that maybe with some chemicals. One other thing I want to do before we leave is this front area, you can kind of just see right through. What I want to do is I'm going to add a mesh just to kind of give a little bit of, just to mask a little bit of what's going on there. All right, so we're going to add some mesh to kind of mask some of the openings there. I think that looks pretty good. That's kind of the lower one. Did one here as well. Yeah, I think that looks sharp. And the last thing we need to do is put this one on underneath, and that'll kind of complete this whole front section. The grill is in place. We've got the underneath protection there as well. You see that, but that one's in place now. So this is all buttoned up. So that kind of wraps up cooling as well as kind of putting the front back on. We can't really complete the cooling yet because we don't have the motor in place or battery packs. We're not going to fill it and cycle it, but we do have the pump. We've got, we confirmed that that works. We got the fan, we confirmed that works. We mounted everything. We got the hoses all routed, front's put back together. So we are well on our way. All right, we were able to get a lot done. I'm really happy with the progress. We will be doing a part 2 for all these, like when we did the electric AC as well as this one. When we finally have the components mounted and the battery power, we'll get things running. We'll let you see the end result. All right, that's where we're gonna leave it for this week. We're not gonna quite fill it up yet because we're still missing the battery pack and the motor. We're gonna leave it there for now, but thanks for tuning in. See you next time. So I'm gonna walk you through what I do for, let's see, like when we did the electric AC as well as this one, when it's all set, we mounted everything, got the hoses all routed. We got the hose.